growing up, I think, I mean, one of the main things I remember doing is like playing outside because we live, I mean, this is so good, like, um, in the middle of the woods and stuff. So I would always play outside. I would always climb trees and stuff like that. But I think the main thing I did was I would like play house or whatever outside, especially with Eli and then Sienna, my best friend and our neighbor. And like we would build like forts and houses and we go hiking. One time we found the grave of a dead sea boat captain, I think, or like his child. We went exploring. It's a funny story actually. Like her mom, Abra, she would always tell us about this grave that was somewhere in their yard and she's been like searching for it. And I didn't know how she heard of it or whatever, but we spent years searching for it. And then one day we actually did, and it was surreal. Like it was like in my head always something that like we would talk about and joke about, but like I never thought it really existed. And then one day we just stumbled upon it, and that was an amazing experience. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That. My dad worked at EKU, so I spent a lot of my childhood on a college campus. It was something that I was really familiar with, in a place that I enjoyed being, and I kind of grew up around education and academia and professors all the time. I had a huge love for nature because when there's not a whole lot to do around you, a lot of your time is spent outdoors, whether it was for me playing basketball, playing other sports, or going hiking, biking, climbing trees, whatever it was. And Richmond was all I knew, really. I traveled outside of that, but I grew up my entire life there. I never lived anywhere else besides Richmond. So all of my friends were from Richmond, either from homeschool co-op or church or just my neighbors. And I still have a lot of really close friends back there, and my family still lives there. So whenever I go back to Richmond, I kind of default back to my childhood, and kind of fit right back into that place of who I was as a child and young man.
I was just always outside. So we had woods behind our house that my grandparents owned. I was always back there walking around in the creek, or running through the cornfields and making forts in the cornfields. There's a little movie theater in town that we would go to on the weekends, and then they would have our local life squad, like the personnel, they would host these dances. So when I got to be in like 8th grade, it was the thing. So every Friday night they would have a dance, and it'd be like $5 cover charge, and you'd see all your friends from school. So that was the big deal around here.
I'm the oldest of 7 children, 6 girls, 1 boy. So basically I grew up in Lower Price Hill. The things that my dad was very strict. So the only thing really that I was allowed to do was to go roller skating with all my cousins. I wasn't allowed out of the backyard. We weren't allowed to do things. He was very strict like that. But then a lot of my cousins lived around me, so I wasn't alone.
For recreation, I'm one of 8 children. So there was always somebody to play with. And we roamed the hills. We just had the best time. My mom started a 4-H club, and we were the club. And she taught us all of the trees, what they were, all the plants. She taught us the constellations in the sky. I grew up playing in the woods, in the creeks, climbing those sandstone rocks. That was our recreation. And because there were so many of us, and we all had very vivid imaginations, we just had a good old time. We really enjoyed being in the hills.
It was a wonderful life. We certainly learned work ethic. We certainly learned to have things, you have to work for them. And that was instilled in us. But, on the other side, we did a lot of fun things. We would take vacations to Gatlinburg, Tennessee a lot, right? Or we would go down home to Granny Till's and Poppy Mars's house. And it was a small house, so you can imagine with all the kids, their husbands, their kids, we would all pile in, at Christmas time, Thanksgiving. And if we weren't at Granny Till's, we would go to Nashville, right, to be with our other papaw, so my dad's dad and his wife. So it was really, everything was around family. We were never dropped off, right, to stay somewhere on a Friday night so mom and dad could go out. And looking back, they probably should have done that. But they just value time with us all the time.